Members, government officers, you are happily chatting away here. If you want to chat further, please step outside. All right, members, it's the appointed time. We formed the quorum. Let's continue with our meeting. Mr. Yip Kwok Him, first round, 5 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. In our previous discussions, we had some discussions on the arrangements of ambulance services. My experience is that if your case is urgent, it should be dealt with by the emergency ambulances and the A&E department. Mr. Yu Si Wing's experience also shows that it's the fire engine which arrived first before the ambulance arrived. The ambulance should arrive first so that those in need of medical care can be treated expeditiously. I don't have any problem with that kind of arrangement. Now, today we are mainly on the PDA. Well, don't thank me for the site visit. Actually, the FSD should be given credit for making this visit arrangement. And now we understand more about this backup service of the FSD. Those who went on the visit understand more about the service, and I think this is something good. I have 2 questions. First, timetable. If you can commission the system ASAP, then those in need will benefit. Second, so I hope that can you take forward the work more expeditiously? Tender preparation only in 2016. Can you advance the timetable? Tendering and award of contract. Can this part of work be speeded up as well? If you can commission the system by end of 2016 and 2017, then that would be great. I'm also concerned about training of staff after the visit. The operators taking the calls should be well trained up, and they should be giving advice to the callers in a more confident way. The callers are probably very worried, and so it's important that we train up the operators properly. So in your plan, have you provided resources for training, and what is your training plan? Thank you, Chairman. With regard to timetable, we undertake that the FSD will try to expeditiously take forward the system once the funding is approved. We are already doing some preparatory work. The tender documents have been prepared, and once the approval is given on the funding, we will consult the relevant departments on our tender documents, and then we would take out the conduits as soon as possible. Manpower training. This is something we attach a lot of importance. The FSCC staff will undergo a 12-week training program, and under this system, we have a rigorous quality assurance mechanism. Every day, we will random check on cases to check the performance of our staff, and also to tie in with the implementation of this system. Everyone will get receive a training program which lasts not fewer than 40 hours to ensure that they have the experience and the relevant knowledge to take on the PDA work. Mr. Ng Leung Sing. I had the chance to visit the FSCC, so we get to understand more about the service. Overall, we should support the item, and the system should be implemented ASAP. The fire helmets, we also took note of that, and unfortunately, the day after, there was news report that the new fire helmets were found to be problematic. I wonder whether other colleagues have noticed that. And anyway, coming back to this item today, some members have talked about policy issues. Well, FC should be focusing on the financial aspect of the items, and on the policy level, I will try to help allay your worries. Ms. Emily Lau talked about sending the patient to the private hospital. Then I will ask a question. Which private clinic or private hospital should the patient be sent to? If the patient is really taken to the private clinic of the patient's relative choice, then, well, there might be problems with congestion on the road, and then there may be a problem. And whether the private hospital is a suitable one, well, that's also questionable. So if a problematic hospital is located or identified, then who should take the blame or responsibility? And also, if a patient has to be carried from a private hospital to a public hospital, how can that be done? That's also going to be a problem. And way back when Zhang Zhenshan was still in Hong Kong, and he had to be taken to a hospital during the middle of the night. And in this particular incident, we could tell the differences of choosing a private and public hospital. If you use a public hospital, there are guidelines, and there is a sort of consistency in the arrangements among public hospitals. So I think that makes everything clear. So because people's lives are at stake here, so we cannot arbitrarily ask the ambulance men to take a patient to a certain private hospital. I don't need an answer from you on this point. And I believe that members of the public should well understand that you should not be too flexible in your approach, because it would not be able to sustain the responsibility in case a very flexible approach is adopted. I have a real question for you. We have this provision on contingency here. We're talking about $3 million in contingency. Can we use that amount to try to expedite the work? Well, that will help. This is a comment. I'll see if you have any answer to my question. I think these are two separate issues, contingency and expediting the project. Well, let me be more specific in my question. First and second years, $600,000 and $900,000. No hardware and software is in place yet, but then you are spending that much in contract staff. Can you use the contingency in the earlier stage to speed up the works? Undersecretary, the idea of contingency is that, well, of course, it's an estimate amount. And there may be items which are unforeseen. And there might also be circumstances beyond our control. For example, inflation is something that is a factor that goes beyond our control. There may be other circumstances, say, because of some problems with the contract, there may be a delay driving up the overall costs as a result. So the contingency is for all these. So we are adding an extra 10% on all the items to come up with this contingency amount. Well, let's well, not cite more examples. Dr. Leung Ka-lau. First of all, as far as I understand, the ambulances would not be necessarily carrying the patient to the nearest hospital. Well, there actually are clusters of hospitals. For example, someone from Aberdeen may be taken to Queen Mary Hospital and not Rettengy Hospital. Second, hospital computer system. And actually, computer system is directed by a person. So if a person makes a mistake, then something coming out of the computer may also carry mistakes. I would also like to follow up on whether FSD ambulancemen can carry a patient to a private hospital. You seldom ask questions, but I don't want to stand in your way. I think you are digressing here. Don't waste our time to keep on talking about FSD's policies with relation to the ambulances, whether our patients should be taken to a private hospital.
Will you give me back my time? It doesn't matter. I can give you 12 rounds. We have a lot of time today. Chairman, well, some members have raised this question. You didn't stop them. Now I am starting to stop you. Because I think we have already wasted a lot of time on this discussion and we are digressing. I don't think we should continue talking about this. Ms. Emily Lau has already asked this question very early on. That is whether patients can be sent to private hospitals. And people are wasting time because Mr. Leung Sing also spent 4 minutes asking these questions. And other questions remain unanswered. So I think I have the responsibility to stop the discussion of this right now. Dr. Leung Ka-lau. Okay, so for this system, I have to ask some questions. So when a caller asks the patients to be sent to a certain hospital, then what policy will the computer system adopt? Well, for policy issues, please go back to the panel. Today, we are talking about this computer system and whether funding should be provided for this computer system. You are bullying me. I'm asking a question about the system. When a patient says that he wants to go to a private hospital and if there's no prior arrangement, then there will be a lot of uncertainty. So he should be sent to the nearest public hospital. That is right. However, sometimes there may already be prior arrangements. That is, the private hospital already knows that a patient will be sent to it. However, the FSD is still rigid. It will not send the patient to the prearranged hospital. I can cite an example. For example, for Hong Kong patients from the mainland, if they cross the border, I understand that they will definitely be sent to the North District Hospital. So can the government answer me? For this arrangement, well, because there is already a prior arrangement, why don't you just follow the patient's request? Under Secretary. Well, for ambulance service, it is a social service. It is different from the transportation of patients. This is an emergency service. Well, the ambulance will send the patient to a place where the most urgent and appropriate service can be provided to the patient. This is a responsibility. And this has nothing to do with the patient's own choice. So the ambulance must send the patient to the closest and most appropriate hospital in the shortest time. It's not about the choice of service by a patient. That's another type of service. If the patient has already made prior arrangements, then that would be the most appropriate and closest. And if that is the most appropriate and closest arrangements, then how can you judge that sending the patient to the North District Hospital is the best arrangement? Well, for our ambulance crew, the most important responsibility is to stabilize an injured person's injury. Now, maybe the injured person already has an arrangement with the hospital. However, for our ambulance men, they may not have the ability to judge at that moment whether the patients can be sent to his desired hospital. Our ambulance crew may not have the ability to judge the situations at that juncture. Time's up. Next time, maybe you can give us a more focused answer, Deputy Director. Mr. Tony Chair, first of all, I would like to say that I support this project, such as to develop a computer system for the FSD. And like other members, I hope that this project can be implemented as soon as possible so that the FSD's emergency ambulance services can be enhanced. So with this system, how will the quality and quantity of the FSD's EAS be enhanced? And under paragraph 3, you say that from May 2011 to February 2012, you have successfully provided simple PDAs to about 23,800 callers. So with this new system, how many more callers can you serve? Now you're talking about 6 types of injury and sicknesses, but in the future there will be 33. And also for the EAS callers, you say that with this new computer system, more comprehensive and appropriate PDA will be provided. You're already doing this, but you are not using the system. So with the new system, your PDA will be easier to understand, and it will be simpler. It will be easier for callers to follow. And the third thing I would like to ask is about paragraph 8 of the paper. Just now, some members have asked you to speed this up because they are worried that if it takes too long, then this system will be outdated by the time it's commissioned. So for paragraph 8, you say that you will be this proposed computer system will be integrated into FSD's existing third-generation mobilizing system. So is this mobilizing system a very updated one? After 3 years, will it be outdated? Under Secretary, first about quality, and then I will ask Mr. Lee to answer the other 2 questions. Why do we have the confidence that the quality will be enhanced? Because for the PDA software, well, you have a questioning protocol software. That is, the callers will just have to answer very simple questions, just yes or no, and then the call taker will input these data into the computer system. The computer system will continue to generate questions, and then an instruction will be made. Before the arrival of the ambulance, the call taker will be able to tell the caller what to do. For example, if there's a heart problem, etc., the call taker will be able to help. So for this question and answer and decision-making program, well, it has been used for 30 years. Over the 30 years, improvements have been made constantly, and it's developed by the International Academies of Emergency Dispatch is a non-profit organization. The U.S. Heart Association and Emergency Medicine Association have been praising this system. It's been used by 40 countries, and it's been adopted by some 3,000 communication centers. So there have been constant improvements. Different professional organizations have already indicated that they're very satisfied with the system. As for our third-generation mobilizing system, now we are using it for dispatch of fire appliances and ambulances. The proposed computer system will be integrated into it, and then it can provide real-time service. We can dispatch ambulances at real time, and the call taker will continue to talk to the caller and provide PDA to the caller. So through this system and with the IAED software, the call taker will ask the caller questions, and the computer will analyze it, and then PDA can be provided to the callers. I want to thank the FSD for arranging for the visit. However, I was too busy. I didn't have time to go. I'm sorry about that. Well, I support the funding for this project. I remember several years ago, a patient was sent to the Caritas center, and he was placed at the wrong entrance of the hospital, and eventually he died because of delayed treatment. It's really a huge pity. If we have this software, then before the ambulance men arrive, assistance can already be provided to the patients. Now, yes, I understand that even if the patient arrives at the AED, he may have to wait for hours. However, we can still provide help earlier. Well, some people have told me, well, it's actually their own experience. Well, this person, he calls 999. So no matter whether you're calling the police or calling an ambulance, you call 999. And then you got a voice message. It says that Chinese, please press 1, English, please press 2, Putonghua, please press 3, urgent, press 1, etc. So it's his own personal experience. So for this system, no matter how efficient it is, if somebody calls 999 and because you do not have enough manpower there, I understand that you have 70 operators, and so if nobody answers the phone and you have to use this recording service, then how long will it take before you can reach this system? Even though this system is very efficient, if people cannot reach it right away, it's still useless. There are 70 people at the police answering emergency calls. But how about the ambulance call takers? Is there a duplication of manpower? Do we have enough manpower for this? Because now we have 6 types of injury and sickness. In the future, we will have 30. So we need more manpower to do the job. So what will you do about this? Well, for the existing arrangements, when a person calls 999 for help, the police reporting center will take the call, and then it will press a direct line, which is immediately connected to the fire services communication center. Then the PDA system will kick in right away. There will be no delay. But before pressing the button connecting to the FSCC, how long will it take? Maybe the Undersecretary knows more about this. Undersecretary? Well, for the design of a system, we will design it up to a level so that it can cope with a certain extent of emergency. No matter how much resources we put in, there will still be limitations. As to how a system is designed, we will have to look at the total number of reporting to police each year. Well, of course, sometimes it will be quieter, sometimes there will be more costs. So when we design the system, we will have to look at the general situation, and then we will add extra resources so that we can cope with the rise and fall in the number of calls. So for an emergency system, this range should even be wider. However, no matter how a system is designed, there may still be times that it may not be able to cope with all the calls. Well, when a person calls 999, then he hears a recording asking him to press certain buttons, and then the system will be connected to the FSD. So how long does it take? Well, you can tell me that you do not know, but I want to know the time. Do you have an answer? Well, this is very unlikely this will happen. We will ask you, she's asking you, starting from the recording, how long does it take before a person can reach FSD? So what is the system like? So when a call comes in, I do not know about all these details. Can you just answer her question? The question she asked. Please repeat the question. Well, please repeat your question at the next round. We have a lot of time. Mr. Abraham Shack. Mr. Shack. Chairman. We support the project. However, we think the amount is on a low side. Because I think we have very stringent requirements. Hong Kong is a very complicated city. And technology changes all the time. If you look at the government's tender documents, some of them are quite outdated. Because we really are talking about a very important system, and it's about life and death. So I think we should give the system more money so that a better system can be built. I think that is good for the people, and we support the funding. So you do not need an answer? Well, I want the government to get more money for this project. Yes, sir. Kwok Wai Kang. For this PDA system, it will definitely help the injured. It will help them and make them less anxious. So I support it, but I want to ask some questions. On page 4, part C, you're saying that the information can be sent to the ambulance crew for better preparation. And how will you do that? Do you do it through the internet, or you WhatsApp the ambulance crew? Because I want to make sure that it's stable, and also I'm concerned about privacy issues. And the second question is about the system. It should be commissioned in 2018. Well, what is the lifespan of the system? Because we want to know the cost effectiveness. And because it will be commissioned in March 2018. Then on page 6, part C, You say that there will be a regular assessment of PSCC operators. How come it starts only in 2019 but not 2018? So would the operators be assessed on a yearly basis or twice a year or what?
Deputy Director. Thank you, Chairman. The first question was how we can relay the information to our frontline ambulance crew. Right now at the SCC, we have information terminals and we can disseminate the information through such terminals. We also provide our call takers with mobile phones. And if voice messages or voice calls have to be made, that can be done. And and our vehicles are also equipped with voice transmission equipment. And these systems will last for about 10 years. And for the assessment of SCC operators, and the assessment has been incorporated into our training schemes. Trained staff would undergo an assessment every year, so that's why we have this cost of $89,000. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, Chairman. According to point 25 in the paper, there's an implementation plan. I cannot hear him. Please speak into the microphone. Excuse me for that. Is there any room for shortening this or speeding up this implementation plan? From preparation to execution, we are talking about more than 2 years. Is that the way the government is going to do things? Chairman, this is just an estimated implementation plan. We would do our best to expedite the process. As I mentioned, certain activities take time. We are already preparing the tender document. We have been progressing well. And at the same time, we would try to secure approval from other departments and the DOJ, and we would speed up that process as well. And we need to set aside some time to install and analyze systems, and that would take some time as well. If everything goes according to plan, the completion dates might be brought forward. You can speed up the preparation work. You said you need time to set up the systems. What about for activity B, tendering and award of contracts? Can you speed that up as well? Can you? You said you can finish the tender before February 2016. What about the tendering and award process? The tender must be circulated to the DOJ, the Government Logistics Department, and the IP Department, and we need to give them some time to work. I don't agree. Between activities A and B, there's a gap of 1 year. Is 1 year long, in your opinion? Activity A is tender preparation. The target completion date is February 2016, and for tendering and award of contract is February 2017. In other words, there's a time span of 1 year. So is that the way it is? Do you really need a year to complete the work? Maybe Ms. Chair would be more familiar about this. And you need a whole year. You need to go through the Department of Justice, the intellectual properties, the IPA, and the GLD. So is it that you, the DOJ has to consider the matter from a legal perspective, or can the three departments work concurrently, or do they have to assess the matter one after another? I just want to know how it works. Assistant Secretary. I think members are concerned whether the process can be sped up. And in terms of the tendering exercise, we'll try to speed up the work as soon as possible. The implementation plan might be brought forward, but I cannot tell you the extent of the expedition here today. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong. My view is that since you have to get the user acceptance test out of the way before you can perform in-house training, and you have about 4 months for the user acceptance test. So in other words, you would finish the work within a matter of months. Sorry, let me correct myself. You have 6 months from August 2017 to February 2018. From activity C to D, you have 6 months, right? Deputy Director. The system analysis and design involves a lot of steps. First of all, the integration of hardware and software. And second, how we can integrate the system into our third generation mobilizing system. And we have to deal with the localization in Chinese and English. In other words, the translation. And our medical director has to vet the guidelines to see whether or not they are suitable in Hong Kong. And this is to enhance efficiency during the actual execution of the system. So there's little room for speeding up in these activities, but for activities A and B, we would do our best to speed it up. Dr. Fernando Chang. Of course, we would support the use of new technologies in emergency ambulance services and post-dispatch advice. My concern is whether the existing emergency ambulance vehicles or ambulances can facilitate or entertain wheelchair users. Right now, a lot of them cannot use ambulances. Some wheelchair users are denied entry by ambulances, and the situation is even worse for electric wheelchairs. They are very heavy. So it's very difficult for wheelchair users. When they go out and when they encounter emergencies or accidents, they would call ambulances. And of course, it's important to give them medical attention as soon as possible, but they don't know what to do with their wheelchairs. So in this regard, would you introduce any improvements? Can some of your vehicles be wheelchair friendly at least? And or can you deploy wheelchair friendly ambulances for these patients? Right now, a lot of wheelchair users are concerned because they cannot get on the ambulances even when they arrive. So can you improve on that? Deputy Director. Thank you, Chairman. Usually in our ambulances, we have to reserve space for a stretcher, and we need to reserve some space for our staff as well to perform certain procedures. It really depends on the condition and extent of injury for the patient. Our ambulances might not have enough space to accommodate wheelchairs or electric wheelchairs. I hope you understand the difficulty. And in our fleet of ambulances, some ambulances are equipped with extra room. If the ambulance has to travel a long way, then the patient's situation might be compromised, and it defeats the original purpose of providing ambulance service. So we have our priority is always to offer attentive care to the patient as soon as possible, and if the situation allows, we would entertain wheelchairs. But in general, it's difficult, it's challenging. Can you not ask any more questions with wheelchairs, because it's not relevant to the item, to the agenda today? We are talking about the system. If you want to talk about introducing wheelchair access to ambulances, it's irrelevant to the agenda today. I agree, but I just want to ascertain their work. I'm sure a lot of members of the public would agree that ambulance services in Hong Kong are excellent. But please excuse me, but I think there is room for improvement. I think ambulances should be equipped with tailgates to entertain wheelchair users. So I think some follow-up work can be done. I think they can consider that. They wouldn't. Mr. Jeffrey Lam. Thank you, Chairman. Recently, we have seen that in some cases of fire, emergency services are required. We see it very often on TV these days. And during the Occupy Central movement last year, there's a lot of road congestion, and our dispatchers and FSD staff had to carry very heavy equipment on their back to attend to the public. So their work was commendable. Time is of utmost priority in emergency services, and every minute counts. If we have a good system which allows the public to get in touch with emergency or ambulance staff as soon as possible, of course, it's a good thing. And my question is, after receiving an emergency call, would this system or this computer system be capable of sending out swift signals so that frontline staff can be deployed to the site as soon as possible? And the second question is, computer systems need to be updated from time to time. Even if we have good system, it still needs to be updated regularly. And if new components be added without the need to replace the entire computer system? Deputy Director. Thank you very much for the question. The mode of operation of the new system is a little bit different from the existing system at the FSCC. We will have a call taker, and after receiving the call, the taker would gather the essential information before relaying them to a second person called the dispatcher, and the dispatcher will coordinate the provision of ambulances to the site. And the time of dispatch would certainly not be slower than the existing system. And in our new system, the hardware is relatively straightforward. And the software component would comply with requirements of the IAED, and the software will be updated every year to make sure that our guidelines are always up to date. Is this new system the most advanced available out there, in your opinion? This system is very important because it acts as a hub for exchanging and disseminating information. As I mentioned, saving lives is very important for us. Is this already the most advanced system available in the international market? The most important component of this system is the software, because for the hardware we are just talking about service. And as we mentioned, the International Academies of Emergency Dispatch has introduced this software 30 years ago, and it has been used in more than 40 countries. And according to our research work, the system is excellent in terms of reliability, its capability of responding to new conditions, dispatch, and so on. I can say it's the best system available internationally. So I can assure all of you that this system can help with enhancing our dispatch services. Mr. Jeffrey Lam has nothing to follow up. Next, Mr. Leung Ka Lau. 3 minutes, please. So I think in simple terms, this system is a simple response mechanism. After someone dials 999, someone will offer them simple information. So I have something to ask in terms of the financial implications. How many patients can or callers can the system serve at the same time? How many servers are we going to have? As far as computers are concerned, if you are a layman, you might have to pay a lot, but if you are an expert, you can save a lot of money. You have to spend more than 10 million on the software. I think most of that it's about intellectual property. If you have the know-how, then you might be able to get a much cheaper deal. Softwares are usually sold on account basis. I don't think there's only one single software available on the market. How many similar software systems are available in the market? Deputy Director. What's the amount of post-dispatch advice can we offer? On average, we get more than 2,000 emergency calls every day, and our target is to be able to provide post-dispatch advice for every emergency call. My question is, how many callers can it serve simultaneously? In our FSCC, we have 12 operators in the panel. And to meet the needs of the new system, we might need to hire extra staff. In our FSCCs, the training of all our operators allow them to deal with different types of dispatches and other work as required in the FSCC. At times of high demand, other types of staff might be mobilized. And some cases are relatively straightforward and some are more complicated. I don't care, but at the same time, if you can, would it be that you can only serve 12 patients and the 13th caller would have to be diverted to the hotline? Deputy Director, please wait for the next round. Ms. Emily Lau, second round, 3 minutes, please.
A number of members have asked about the very long timetable, and Mr. Abraham Shack said that because the timetable is so lasts so long, then whatever you buy may have become obsolete by the time you commission the system. So that may be the case. Do you understand that this may be the situation? Your colleagues may also complain to you on that. How come that the government is operating in this manner? A lot of civil servants are very upset. How come that the government is taking things forward in such a way? Permanent Secretary, thank you, Chairman. In purchasing computer systems, our policy is that if we have to have a tender exercise, we would try to streamline the procedures as much as possible and expedite things. In the past 1 to 2 years, the relevant government departments have done a lot. Say if a document has to be circulated to different departments, we would try to, with respect to basic requirements in computer systems, we would try to put up some standardized terms. So this is already being done. From the government's perspective, of course, we want to expedite things and streamline procedures. I don't want you to give me examples on equipment getting obsolete by the time the project is commissioned, because you are acting so slowly. You take 5 to 6 years to purchase certain equipment, and when by the time you commission a project, then such equipment will already become outdated. As I said many times, we will try to take forward the work ASAP. Let me try to supplement. This is our implementation plan, 2 years, and I said just now that we would try to shorten the time ASAP as much as possible. The most important component of the system is the software. The system that we want to purchase will be upgraded once every year. So even if we buy the system, then there will not be a situation of the system getting outdated. Mr. Albert Chan, first round, 5 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. There's no reason for me not to support the paper. When it comes to saving lives, of course, it would be better if we have got updated systems. I have talked to FSD staff who are about to retire. When it comes to the housing issue, then they are infuriated. And they've been serving the department for some 30 years. And by the time they get retired, they are kicked out of their quarters. Well, come back to the item in discussion, please, Mr. Chan. I would like to compliment the civil servants for their contribution. Well, let's not follow C.Y. Leung. He would not be treating people kindly. Two questions here. We've got this tendering exercise on the civil aviation department system, the scandal about it, and actually, you can tailor-make the tender documents such that a certain company will definitely get the tender. It's what happened to the civil aviation system. So will the FSD do something similar? Is there any measure? For example, can the FSDB look into how you can ensure that the staff responsible for the tender exercise will not act like the CZAD? The staff there design the tender in such a way that a certain company would definitely get the tender. And also will all the hardware and software systems, the language used is in English or what? Concerning tender exercise, we have a rigorous system, supervision system. Well, please don't talk nonsense. Well, the system for CAD is not under a rigorous system. Well, the case with the CAD is so obvious. How can you ensure what mechanism would you put in place to prevent recurrence of such incidents? I don't have any query on you as a government official, but I am worried about the system. Undersecretary, we have to emphasize, as what Mr. Chen said, we need an independent monitoring mechanism. I tried to explain it just now that in the government system, there are independent mechanisms with participation of non-FSD staff. DOJ, Logistics Department, IPD staff will be involved. And also we've got the Central Tender Board involved as well. They will use an objective set of standards to assess and to give scores to the tenderers and then award the tender. So in the design of the mechanism, we have all these elements to reduce the chances of reduce the chances of undesirable things happening. Well, the civil aviation system, well, if not for the CAD staff telling us, we would never imagine that they have played such tricks. The whole tendering exercises is so abnormal, and tens of billions of public money have been squandered, and it's difficult to check on such mishaps. Now, of course, the assessment of the tender will be done in a fair way, but the design of the tender document may be problematic. So the design of the tender documents is so important. So in terms of the design of the tender documents, we need some independent people, independent of the system who can take part. So those in power would not be able to control the tendering results through designing the tender documents. Well, this is exactly what we are thinking too. We hope to ensure that the tendering exercises will be fair and impartial. Ms. Sit-Ho, 3 minutes. My question mainly is this. Well, we support the system. But then when an ordinary member of the public calls 9999, how long will it take for that call to be connected to the central system? You don't know how many people will call 999. There will be 3 scenarios. There will be an immediate person attending to the call, and then that will get connected to the new system. And the second scenario, that the callers may have to wait a long time. And third system, that would be a Well, there will be a voice message system asking you to specify your language, and then there may be a further division of emergency cases and non-emergency cases. So from the time when the call has been received by the voice messaging system up to the moment when somebody actually tends to the call and then connects it to the central system. So how long will that whole process take? So please let him answer that question first. Undersecretary, I don't have such information. I can go back and try to find an answer. And Deputy Director, do you have such information? Well, please give us a reply in writing later. Second question, manpower. FSD said that they have 12 officers. It will one shift in 12 officers, or 3 shifts, 12 officers in total, and then 4 officers in one shift. Well, if that is the case, and the system will be saturated very easily because you need 2 persons to attend to one call. Now, if there is, if the case is like that, would you be asking the 70 officers from the police to help you out? Well, if that is the case, you have to train up the 70 police officers as well. Deputy Director, well, for FSCC, we don't just have 12 operators. For every shift, we have 12 operators. If we have to implement the new PDA, we have to change our operation mode. There will be a call taker and a dispatcher. It doesn't mean that they will be there attending one call all the time. The call taker will get the information, the nature of the incident, the address, and the caller's telephone, and then the call can be transferred to the dispatcher, and then the dispatcher can dispatch the ambulance. And then the dispatcher's work is finished up to that moment, and you can attend to some other tasks. And the call taker in the meantime will continue to talk to the caller to give the PDA. Apart from the 12 staff members who are on the FSCC calling panel, there are 12 other officers at the FCCC, and if needed, this other group can also help out. As I said, the dispatchers are there to dispatch the ambulances, and if there is no special request from the ambulances, the dispatchers have time to help out with taking the calls as well. So under all these arrangements, there is no need for us to seek assistance from the police. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, second round, 3 minutes. In paragraph 25 C to D, time has to be spent on translating certain texts and to localize the texts. Well, for the software, there is an English version. There is also a Chinese version as well. But then it's really targeted at the mainland situation. So that's it, all right? So you need time to change the mainland Chinese language into Chinese language suited for the Hong Kong context. Well, you can do it now. Well, if you have chosen a certain system, then you can start right away with the translation work. You can even do it now. Even when you haven't purchased the system, you can go ahead and do the translation and localizing the language of the menus and the guidelines and so on. Oh, you are back on the point on expediting the project, right? Yes. Now, if you want to set up a restaurant, well, you don't have to talk to me about a restaurant. Well, the deputy director, you can give him an answer, please. I can undertake that. Once we've purchased the software, we will do our work as soon as possible. The other side will not be providing the menu to us. Now we haven't purchased the system. We have to go through the tendering exercise as well to ascertain who will get the tender. Well, we promise that we will proceed with the work ASAP. I would now raise this question on behalf of Dr. Leung Kalau. It's not about the number of operators. It's about the capacity of the software. Say if there are 14 cores and the capacity is only 12 cores, even if you have 14 or 15 people, operators there, then that won't be of any use. The software capacity, can it cope with 12 callers or more? Well, we would be tying in the system with the third generation system. As I said, if the demand is high, the colleagues who are taking charge of the fire prevention portfolio can also help out. At every panel, the system will be installed and can be used. Dr. Leung Ka Lau, third round, 2 minutes. Well, simple question. How many callers can be served at the same time? We have got 2,000 calls every day. So for every hour, several dozen calls. Unless these several dozen callers call at exactly the same time, then people may have to wait. But then, going by our experience, the calls are rather scattered over a period. It's not that 70 calls, say, will be made at exactly the same time, and also the cases of the calls differ in complexity. For some calls, the advice can be given out in, say, 2 to 3 minutes, and then that's done. And we would also look at the actual operation, and if needed, we would ask for extra manpower in accordance with the established mechanism to support the PDA system. His question is rather simple. Say if 13 calls are made at the same time, is it that the system cannot cope with it? Well, he's asked the same question for 4 rounds, and you can't give him an answer. There are so many variables to a call. The call may be complicated and may be a simple. Well, if, say, we assume that these calls are very simple, 13 calls calling at the same time, you can cope with that? Yes, no problem at all. Dr. Leung Ka Lau. How many callers can be served concurrently? Now, if you have, say, 20 telephone lines in the system, then you can just tell me then 20 callers can be served at the same time. As said, we have 12 stations and 12 rescue stations. And if we use up all these stations to receive the calls, and that can be done. But then, as I said, for our PDA system, there is this role of the dispatcher, and 2 to 3 officers may still serve as dispatchers. So that means that we can still have over 20 stations to take the calls. Please continue with your question. Nobody wants to ask now. 20 at the same time, approximately 20. 12 plus 12. 12 plus 12. 20 at the same time. You seem to have an idea of the type of software you want to purchase. Well, it seems to me to be the case, but then they go on to talk about tendering. So it seems that they still have to choose. Let me explain, Chairman. The IAED develops the software. Chairman, let me ask this question. You have a type of software in mind, is that right? Well, as I was going to explain the situation, IAED, International Academies of Emergency Dispatch, this is a non-profit making organization. It has developed this software, and medical professionals have set some questions and also some PDAs. They would be providing this part of the information, and then companies around the world have packaged such information into a software, and then we would try to tender out the contract to such companies. So there are many companies undertaking the work. Yes, right. Dr. Leung Ka Lau, 6th round, 1 minute. I just ask a simple question, and that is whether they do have a particular software in mind. Well, they are going round and round in circles in answering your question. The non-profit making organization has already got this software. The non-profit making organization provides, well, how should I put it? It's PDA, but not in software format. Is that right, in simple terms? Well, they say it's like they publish a book, setting out all the questions that you should ask in certain situations, and then the companies will, based on the book, this book, then design their own software. Is that the case?
Yes, part of it is right. But for these companies, they would need to get an approval from the IAED. So other than designing, they would have to provide a software that can operate, and the content is provided by IAED. Mr. Leung Kwok-hung, yes, now I understand. So there is this organization called International Academies of Emergency Dispatch, and it's the greatest organization of this kind. It's put together a manual, and when it comes to actual implementation, different companies have developed softwares, and they are looking for businesses. So you will look for one of these softwares. You will tell them that Hong Kong is like this, we have this policy. So you would have to follow the IAED manual and come up with a software for me, right? So there are many companies that will be able to do business with you, right? So this is what I want to know, because Mr. Chen said that if you if you want a 5-leg dog, then this company would be able to this one company would be able to come up with a 5-leg dog, and then you will definitely award the tender to this company. And you are saying that this IAED will have to approve the software, right? So at least we get a guarantee. That is, this an organization with good reputation would have to approve the software. So that's why the software will be reliable, right? Yes. Dr. Leung Ka-lau, do you understand now? You don't continue to ask him, right. You have to give him time to answer. Yes, he is right. So the crux of the issue lies with the competition among software companies. If a software company knows people in your department, then it's very likely that they will win the tender. Dr. Leung Ka-lau, 7th round, 1 minute. Well, I'm asking Mr. Leung Ka-lau to ask questions, not you, Mr. Leung Kwok-hung. So for this software companies, they're going to provide a software, and we are not talking about only one company. Will you be able to see the demonstration beforehand? For these companies, they are IAED accredited. So we'll mainly contact IAED, which is a non-profit making organization, and they will show us a demo. We will also have a trial software, and we did look at that on the 25th of March. Members visited our department. You have also seen this demo. So if you award a tender to a company and after 2 years you think the software is not good, can you change it? The most important thing is the content, the provision of content. So the content has to follow the requirements of IAED. So the system itself is quite simple. The most important thing about it is the provision of content. Mr. Wu-Chi, why first round? 5 minutes. Lan Ka-Lau, you have to wait for your 8th round. Oh, the paper says that the software contains an operating system. So is it Windows-based or Unix-based? In other words, is the software self-proprietary, or does it have open source code? Well, for the software itself, it will be integrated into FSD's existing third-generation mobilizing system. So when it comes to the requirements, we have to make sure that it can be integrated into our existing system. Now, so for a computer system like this, the most important thing is about compatibility. So for your system, can you tell me? Well, when it comes to operating system, there are two major bases, Windows-based or Unix-based. Or you're saying that, no, it's not like that. It is a system that is provided by the suppliers. So then, if that is the case, then I will be worried about the compatibility. And also for software, it has to be updated all the time. So for this system, what's the updating arrangement? Software updating. First, for the software itself, it has to be integrated into our third-generation mobilizing system. You have told us 18 times already. Now, for our system, it's a Windows system. It's Windows-based. So I have answered your question. As for updating, the updating of the contents will be done every year. But it mainly depends on IAED's annual review. If new data have to be input, then we will do that. So it's a Windows-based system, right? So it's just like Microsoft. It's a Microsoft system. So when the company provides the system, is there a technical upgrading arrangement? After awarding the tender, even though the technical side is upgraded, you still have to use the old system. Well, it's back to the old question. When it's integrated into our system, if the hardware has to be upgraded, then it has to follow the third-generation system. But if it's a software upgrading, then we will have to look at the IAED's requirements. Well, they are asking a very simple question. Well, I will ask you from a layman's point of view. They ask you after you've purchased system in the future, if you want to upgrade it, do you have to pay? But you're always telling us about the third-generation mobilizing system. So no matter from which company you are buying it, how about upgrading? Do you have to pay each year for upgrading? Well, for the word upgrading, it covers a lot of areas. So that's why I have to explain clearly. Now, after it's integrated into the third-generation mobilizing system, it will become part of this third-generation mobilizing system. So the software will be updated all the time. So who's going to pay for the upgrading? Now you are getting funds from us. Does it cover the coming 10 years upgrading? Well, it is about the system itself, which we will need a license. So for that license, do you have to pay for it every year? As the operating cost. So it's already covered in the operating cost. So your department would have the money to pay it. It's our recurrent expenditure. Can I ask about the third generation mobilizing system? You have to wait for your next round, Mr. Allen. Chairman, I've been listening for quite a while. But I'm getting more and more confused. Now, if you make a call to the FSD, you will talk to an operator, and the operator will be providing post-dispatch advice. He will ask is the injured bleeding, is he bitten by a dog, a snake, or what? Does he feel dizzy? Can he stand? Can he sit down? So that kind of things, right? I'm just looking at it from a common sense perspective. So for the PDA, well, will you be taking reference from the IAED, and these kind of questions will be turned into a digital voice? That is your family member now conscious? So the operator will be asking a set of questions. Will he be looking at it from a human perspective? So now it will be taken over by a computer system. Although it's developed by IAED, how come the service can be better? Maybe I am too slow, I don't understand, but I really don't understand, Chairman. I am even slower than you. I've been sitting here for more than an hour. I don't know what they are talking about. Undersecretary, it's your turn. Well, for the second part, I will ask the medical director to answer Mr. Leung's question. Maybe Mr. Leung wasn't here just now. Operator, the call taker will continue to talk to the caller. After getting the basic information, then the basic information will be transferred to the ambulance. The ambulance will be dispatched immediately. The call taker will not hang up. It will keep on getting information from the caller. And then how would this software help? I will ask the medical director to answer the question. Medical director, Dr. Seal. Thank you. Now for this system, what's the use of it? Mainly, well, the call taker will ask the caller questions. Just a simple questions. The caller would just have to answer yes or no, or I don't know. And then the system would operate by itself. We'll jump to the next question, and then after several questions, we can decide what's happening to the patient. For example, does he have a cardiac arrest, or has he lost his consciousness? And then the computer system would generate some very simple advices. The call taker will talk to the caller, tell the caller what to do, how to take care of the patient. So before the arrival of the ambulance, the caller can help the injured. Yes, I understand. So now we already have a natural person that's doing this kind of thing. But now we are going to spend $40 million on this computer system. So what improvements can be made? Because there's a database so that it can come up with things that now the operator cannot think about, right? So what's the concept? Now for our operators, now after receiving a call, after getting information, he will hang up. And then the caller would have to wait for the ambulance to arrive before he can get FSD service. But now with this software, we have a new function. That is, the call taker will ask preset questions. The computer would analyze the answers, and then advices will be given. Well, Dr. Siu says that the call taker would not hang up. No, with the old system, the call taker will hang up. With the new system, after they get the money for the new system, the call taker will not hang up. I shouldn't encourage you to ask questions, however. Let's continue. Mr. Charles Mock. Well, originally I didn't have questions, but now they're talking about computers, so I would like to help to explain. Just now, the government officials say that this is quite a simple system, but members asked about compatibility. Well, for compatibility is not that well. In the old system, you use Windows. Now, for the new system, you must use Windows. That is not the case, so you can rest assured. This is about the design of computer system, and I'm sure some government officials are very familiar with it. And if you talk about the operation system, if it has to be upgraded, then I think within the contract period is already covered. But if it's outside the contract period, then as the government officials said just now, they would use the government's money to pay for it. For the government departments, they are doing the same thing about their computer systems. I hope members can understand more about this. To be frank, I think these are not too relevant to what we are discussing today. This is just something very basic, and these are not major issues. Actually, I have no questions. I just want to help to explain. Thank you. Don't ask Mr. Charles Mock to sit on the other side. Next, Mr. Wu Chi-wai, 3 minutes. Just now, we've been told that the proposed computer system will be integrated into FSD's existing third-generation mobilizing system. So when did you start to use the third-generation mobilizing system? And how long is the lifespan of the third-generation mobilizing system? Well, for the third-generation mobilizing system, it was commissioned in 2005. It has a lifespan of 10 to 15 years. We have now started to study the issue. That is whether we should upgrade the functions in it or we should buy a new system. We are now asking a consultant to study it. Well, if the consultant says that you should buy a fourth-generation mobilizing system, then what will happen to this proposed computer system? If we buy the proposed computer system, the new system would include the proposed computer system. Well, I'm getting more confused. So for this computer system, it seems it's a system that will ask questions, right? Because for the original dispatchments, the operator will answer the call, he knows the location, and then he will dispatch. But now there is a question list that's developed by the IAED. So the call taker will ask all these questions so that extra assistance will be given to the caller, and dispatchments can be better made. For example, they can dispatch the most relevant tools, etc. So what are other extra functions? Yes, this is a system that will ask questions, but most importantly, the questions are prepared by medical professionals. They have clinical experiences, so that's why they set such questions. under different circumstances, different PAD will be provided. So after getting the answers for the questions, the answers will be analyzed. So what has it to do with dispatchment? So that's why we need one call taker and one dispatcher. He will ask 3 questions first: address, nature, telephone number, and then he will press a button. Mr. Allen, second round, 3 minutes. When I read paragraph 3 of the paper, it says that for the PDA, it has been implemented for 4 years in respect of 6 common types of injury and sickness.
And the callers seem to be very satisfied already. But now you're coming here for funding approval. So is it that suppose I make a call now, you will hang up after gathering the basic information. You won't provide any post-dispatch advice at this moment, right? I just want to know the current situation before we decide whether it's money worth spending. Right now we are operating it on the pilot basis. We are trialing the provision of PDA service. Since we aim to introduce the new system, we are test driving it on a pilot basis. Our medical director designed some questions according to the IAED guidelines, and during 4 years of trial, we realized that the response from the public has been very positive. And that's why we want to introduce the new system altogether to handle the 2,000 calls we receive every day. Before we introduce this new IEAD system, the medical director can make use of their experience and medical knowledge in the design of this system. So why do we have to spend this extra 40 million in a new system? Deputy Director. The 6 existing conditions are relatively straightforward. But IEAD covers a lot more conditions and injuries. Right now we have covered 33 conditions, and IAED is a very rigid NGO, and they have a lot of professionals and medical consultants. They would streamline the list of questions all the time to keep the guidelines up to date. And when new conditions or diseases break out, they would be added to the software. And on the other hand, our medical director can only make a judgment based on the existing situation. But the existing coverage is relatively restricted. 4 minute, please, Mr. Leung Kwok Hong. You said that you have to pay if softwares need to be updated, but they will be covered in the recurrent expenditures, right? When IAED comes up with something new, you have to update the software. Let's say if they invent something new. Right now, let's say the list covers 33 conditions, and let's say they have expanded the list to 48 conditions. You still have to pay for the software cost, right? Because you want to update your software to the latest version. You chose this set of software because it aligns with the 3rd generation mobilizing system. That's the most important condition, right? So you have spent so much efforts in the 3rd generation mobilizing system, so you are trying to make sure that all systems would comply with it. Your minutes up. I I don't understand what you want because you're a lot smarter than I am. So would you like to speak in the next round? Fifth round. Deputy Director. Our tender would list out all these requirements. The software provided must align with our third generation mobilizing system. So something must be done during the system design stage. I'm not sure if this would happen or not. Your logic is that since you're using the third generation mobilizing system, you would not consider any software which are incompatible with the system. And when the software is updated, would you have to pay anything extra? Well, you have to upgrade your system from third to fourth generation one day. He told you that a consultancy study is underway to see whether or not they need to upgrade to the fourth generation. Eventually, the fourth generation system might be required at some point in time. So are you going to ask a question in the sixth round? Sixth round, 1 minute, please. Chairman, what I want to say is that if the fourth generation system is already on the horizon, you should gear the software towards the fourth generation. You shouldn't gear it towards the third generation system. My question for the government is that we don't have any representatives from the IP department here today. If the fourth generation system is available, we should move forward. They haven't decided whether or not to go for the fourth generation because they are not sure whether the funding approval would be passed. If you operate a restaurant, then you should go for the latest system. So, do you expect an answer? Mr. Leung Ka Lau, 1 minute, 8th round, please. Chairman, I'm most concerned with the cost effectiveness of this proposal. The government mentioned a list of 33 conditions, and after scanning through this, the government promise has a service pledge of 9 minutes for its ambulance services. As a doctor, my advice for the caller is not to touch the patient until the ambulance arrives. For example, for abdominal pains or problems, what kind of questions does the IAD guidelines have, and how would the computer system react? Perhaps the medical director can address that. Dr. Siu, please. Well, you have to wait for the 9th round. Would you like to wait for the 9th round? Dr. Siu, you have 1 minute. The system can react to certain symptoms. For example, with excessive bleeding, with the absence of heartbeats, and for certain conditions when the heart stops beating, for example, the time is very important, and every minute counts. If cardiopulmonary resuscitation can be conducted before the ambulance arrives, the patient's chances can improve a lot. Do you mean that you would teach the caller to perform resuscitation for the patient? If the procedure can be conducted in a timely manner, the patient's chance of surviving would be much improved. You can wait for the 12th round if you want. You have time. 11th round. Well, we are at the 10th round, right? Well, it doesn't matter. Would you like to ask a question? 10th round, 1 minute, please. Under this new system, the caller would be educated to provide first aid procedures. It really depends on the general standards or capability of the callers. In Europe and America, most people might have a good basic level of knowledge to conduct or perform these procedures. But in Hong Kong, does it really apply? Or does it really work? If the caller doesn't have a good level of medical knowledge, he or she might not be able to conduct these procedures. Thank you for the question. And we would only teach the caller to conduct simple resuscitation procedures. But it's if they are able to do it, it's better than nothing. By global standards, performing cardiopulmonary resuscitation would have no adverse impacts on the patient. Mr. Alan Leung, saving lives is of utmost importance. If the government promises that by spending $70 million you can save a lot of lives, if that's the case, there's no reason for us to oppose the proposal, but we have to look at the cost effectiveness of the proposal. We have discussed this item for almost 2 hours, and we are only beginning to hear something for real from the government, from Dr. Siu. According to countries that have adopted IAED software, we have not seen any information on the effectiveness of such systems in terms of saving lives. If the papers tell us that these procedures or system can save lives, then I would be convinced, because I will have no reason to believe otherwise. If the Director of Audit has to consider the cost effectiveness of the proposal one day, this kind of background information is necessary. So my question is whether the responsible controlling officer or department is willing to submit detailed documents for the Director of Audit if the need arises in the future. The FSD would vet whether or not the post-dispatch advice system is effective. A committee has been set up to look at the cost effectiveness of this system. If requested by LegCo, we would report our progress to the panel on security. Mr. Leung Ka-Lau, 11th round. 1 minute, please. That's the last question for me. When you choose the software provider, you have a choice of multiple providers, right? If in case you realize that the support service is not satisfactory 2 years later, what are you going to do? Yes, we do have choice. That's why we will conduct a tendering exercise. If the performance is unsatisfactory 2 years, after 2 years, the list of software providers we look at are all accredited by IAED, and they satisfy certain requirements. So the chance of that happening is very, very low. Any follow-up? Is there any chance you can replace the provider if needs be? Deputy Director, you nodded. What does that mean? in any contracts or agreement, there are clauses with regards to penalty or and clauses with relation to replacing the vendor. Dr. En Leung, fourth round, 1 minute, please. If the government finds our questions harsh, I suggest you to look at the audit report number 63. Well, it's just an assumption. I'm confident they wouldn't feel that way because they have very high EQ. When you look at the case of the Director of Civil Aviation, the accounts are all messy, and the system could not be used after 4 years. And I hope you understand why we made such requests, because we have to, well, we are accountable as well. And it's not about the amount of money we're talking about. Is not a one-off endowment. When will they have to come back for more funds? Please wait for the 5th round. Who will address his question? The $38 million would be spent on setting up the system, and it also covers part of our everyday operating costs, and we have to pay for license fees, etc. Those costs could be absorbed under the recurrent expenditure of the FSD, right? We're talking about more than $37 million. If you are to update the list of questions or update the system, how much more would you have to spend? He mentioned the need to obtain a license, and the fees have been incorporated under the envelope of recurring expenses, and they wouldn't have to come back for extra funding. How much money are you talking about? It has been listed under paragraph 20. Around $15 million. $15 million as of 2019, right? We're looking at paragraph 20. Any other questions from members? If not, I will put this item to the votes. Those who are in favor of the proposal under paper FCR 215166, please raise your hands. Those who object, please raise your hands. I think the majority of the members are in favor of this proposal. This proposal has been passed. Under Secretary, you mentioned that you will share papers with us later, right? On request by the security panel, we are happy to provide these papers. So does it mean they have to make another request at the panel of security before you will submit further papers? Is that right? Can you make your request clear? The speaker is off the microphone. Can you turn on the microphone for Ms. En Leung, please? When the Director of Audit assesses the cost effectiveness of the project, they would have a basis for making a decision on you have to provide operational figures to assess how to justify how many lives can be saved or how many more lives can be saved by the system. And under this basis, we would have a foundation for assessing the accounts in the future. Have I made myself clear enough? After the system is in operation, we will share the relevant figures with Legislative Council. I'm not talking about the post-commissioning of the system. Mr. Leung, I understand your point. But since we have already passed this proposal, I think what you can do is to send a letter to the panel of security listing out your requests. And we can relay your letter to the Security Bureau, Ms. Sid Ho. I asked about the 999 voicemail system and how I wanted to know how long it takes for the call to be relayed to the FSC. They don't have any figures on hand. When they do, they would reply to you in writing.
The Undersecretary just now didn't ask us to follow up on the issue at the security panel, but then when he promised Alan Leung on his request, he didn't say that he should follow up on the matter with the security panel. Well, if you have any arguments with the Undersecretary, please go outside and continue your argument with him there. Let's move on to the next item. FCR bracket 2015-16 bracket 7. This seeks members' approval to a new commitment of 1.44878 billion for the next generation smart identity card system. The security panel, or rather the Security Bureau, has consulted the security panel at the meetings on the 6th of January, 3rd of February, and 3rd of March. And to answer members' questions, we have the following members from the administration team: Mr. John Lee, Undersecretary for Security; Mr. Billy Wu, PAS for Security; Mr. David Chiu, Assistant Director of Immigration, Personal Documentation; Mr. Lok Wai-man, Assistant Director of Immigration Information Systems; Ms. Caroline Fan, Mei Hing, Chief Systems Manager, Technology Services, Immigration Department. And now I'd like to invite Mr. Yip Kwok Kim from the security panel to report on the deliberations of the panel. Well, on the 6th of January, 3rd of February, and 3rd of March, the security panel has discussed the issue of the next generation smart identity card system. Some members are concerned about the security and the privacy protection in relation to the wireless transmission technology to be adopted for the smart tick system. Especially, they're concerned about whether information stored in the ID card will be accessed by others within close range and not discovered. And some members are also worried about or concerned about the scope of information to be stored at the new ID card, the service lifespan of the new card, and also the replacement arrangement. The administration emphasized that the double encryption technology will be adopted and nobody will be allowed to gain access to information stored in the smart card without authorization. Now, as regards whether we support that the administration to forward the proposal for consideration by the FC. The members have different views. On the meeting at the 3rd of February, 40 members in support and 11 members object. And in response to the members' concern, the administration has provided supplementary information on the security and privacy protection of the new ID card. And in the meeting on the 3rd of March, the security panel has further discussed the matter. 2 members have pressed the button to speak, so that will go beyond the 7:10 p.m. So I'll adjourn the meeting now, and then we will continue with our discussion next time, and wish you all a very happy Mother's Day.